So hey, let's talk preparation. My name is Steve.
Oh wow, I wasn't prepared for this.
Uh,
I'm Ian.
we can start again if you want.
No, it's cool.
Okay. So we've been putting together a role-playing game called Downbelow. It is a really cool game about narrative system, diceless, non-random, in a post-apocalyptic... Wait, no, that's not right. But it is a non-dystopian dystopia in a cyberpunk future. You should check us out. If you have already, we thank you. If you haven't, go back, take a look at it, and then come back. We've got some GMing advice for you today, and it is, as alluded to, about preparation.
So, when you are the games master in a game, you are supposed to adjudicate the flow of things, give players the sort of what they see, what they can interact with, and you need to have a certain amount of things on hand to get this done.
By the way, players, while this advice is for game masters, you can benefit from a lot of this advice too. The specific things you need to prepare are different, but please pay attention and see how it applies to you.
So, here's the thing about being the GM. There's going to be one of you usually, maybe two. We've had some experiences with people having co-GMs, usually when they have a lot of players, because there's going to be a ratio of about one GM to 4 to 6 players normally.
Right.
And that means that you are not going to have the same amount of attention to give to what's going on during the session as the players are.
As any given player specifically.
Because the player is going to be laser focused on what their character is doing and what their character cares about, and you have to split up your focus to everybody.
So what this means is that for the game master, even more than the players, they're going to have to prepare before and after the fact. There's some preparation to be done during the game. It is perfectly understandable for a game master at any given point in time, usually when the action has stopped and they can take a breather, to excuse themselves, head to another room, and write down some notes about what just happened. However, most of the preparation is going to be before the session in question, whether it's preparing the setting, preparing the adventure, or preparing for the upcoming session, sometimes all three at the same time.
Exactly what you're going to be preparing is going to vary rather differently by what game you're running and what you have the player characters doing in that game, because you might be preparing monsters, you might be preparing stats for NPCs, you might be preparing maps, you might be preparing timetables,
But this actually brings a very important thing up to bat, and that is your first responsibility, honestly, is to know what you need to prepare. Ian's just listed a whole bunch of things that you could prepare. Not every game will use all of this. Don't prepare things that your game won't need.
And there are plenty of games that I've run that don't use any of those things.
If your game is set entirely within one room of a house, you probably need one map tops. If you need to draw multiple maps, that tells me that the exact placement of items is very important in this game.
So, knowing what you need to prepare is one, and then checking off that list. Another important aspect of preparation goes back to that reading the book. There is a particular type of reading that the GM will need to do when preparing, because the type of adventure that you're going to run in a specific game session is going to require you to be prepared with cheat sheets or at least bookmarks for certain rules that you should be knowing they're going to come up because of what you're preparing to do.
This kind of comes down to the idea of preparing the adventure. There are plenty of times when players will stumble onto something and it will turn into this whole big thing, but if your players in the middle of the wilderness stumble onto a random dead body, you should actually be prepared, maybe not with the specifics of this dead body. Perhaps it literally is just a dead body in a wilderness hex. But you should be prepared with the ability to decide or randomly generate what happened to that dead body quickly, on the fly, without the players knowing if it is a random dead body. If it isn't, there should already be a mystery or non-mystery behind it for the players to uncover. This also leads to a very important thing, time. Something that I have found is there's such a thing as too much preparation. Generally speaking, when we're talking about preparing in the session-to-session sense, this is not for the adventure sense or the campaign sense. Those have a different amount of input to them. I find that it is a waste of personal time if I'm spending more than 2 hours in preparation for every projected hour of game time. I usually spend roughly half an hour of preparation for every hour of game time. Sometimes less. If you are going over 2 hours to 1 hour, you are probably working too hard.
Now, this can vary a little bit depending on the size of your group. The more players...
And on your personal time availability and speed of preparation.
The more players, the more prep you'll probably need, for example. But as Steve just alluded to, there's also your time budget to take into account. If you have a lot of time to plan games in, then you might not find it to be a waste to do some extra planning. But if you don't have a lot of free time, and who really does when they are a working adult, then you will probably find it worth your while to limit how much prep you will do, because there is definitely a point of diminishing returns on that preparation after you have hit the minimum. And
However,
then well after that, you will hit a maximum where it drops off sharply.
Despite the fact that there is a point of diminishing returns, that is not in any way to be construed as me saying don't prepare. While there are some few DMs that can do it, prepare. Please prepare. At least read through the book before you run the game.
Whether that preparation is making sure that you are familiar with a whole bunch of random tables and other rules that will allow you to fly by the seat of your pants, or whether it's preparing specifics that you know how to quantum ogre your way into having them happen in a way that makes the PCs feel like their choices matter no matter which direction the PCs actually go, be prepared.
The important thing to take away from this, because we're talking about this whole time about improving your skills, the way that a GM improves their preparation skill is measured not so much in quantifiable results as in efficiency. The more practice you have at preparation, the shorter each preparatory step takes, because the more you know what exactly you need to prepare, and the more practice you've had at preparing that. As you are building your skill at preparation, you'll find that 2 hours per hour either goes down to a point where you're doing 1 hour per hour or even less, or you can cram a lot more into the time allotted. And that is the sign that you're getting better. That and the fact that your players' gleeful faces will give you feedback.
So next time we're going to talk about another subject which is sort of balanced across the board. Thanks for sticking with us so far, and we'll see you, well, we'll be seen by you next time.